Hello, welcome to the Retro Game Club podcast, Season 6, Episode 23, which is also Episode 186. And joining me is someone that does most of the work, Zach and Hugh.
Hey.
Well, I do none of the work, so that was for Zach.
It's yin and yang.
Yeah, I do zero work.
I'll start with Zach since I said his name first. How's it going? You're here. You're in the podcast.
I'm here. Yes, sir. I'm busy, but I made time for you guys.
We appreciate it. All of my Discord messages to you. Yeah, Hugh, what have you been up to?
That is a great question. I should open notes. Oh, so just by coincidence, I ordered the Analog Pocket additional adapters because
Nice.
I own one Neo Geo Pocket Color game, so I figure I might as well play it.
Which one? Which Neo Geo Pocket Color?
Pac-Man. I have just Pac-Man. In fact, that's what I'm playing. I'm playing Miss Pac-Man for Lynx on it right now.
Yeah.
So these are actually pretty. I didn't realize you had to update the firmware to use them. So I originally thought I got defective units.
I bought them as well, and I think they're still sealed on my shelf because I don't have any need for them. But I was trying to future-proof it.
Neo Geo Color games are expensive now.
Yeah, and I don't even remember where or how I got the one that I have. I literally have no recollection at all of it, of ever purchasing it.
I mean, you have no other way to play Pac-Man otherwise.
Otherwise, yeah, zero other ways to play Pac-Man. I had speculated, because I have daughters, that their My Little Ponies were reproducing, like on their own, because every day I was finding more and more My Little Ponies in the house. And I think I have that problem here with video games right now. Like, I have many games that I just am like, did I buy this? Why do I have 2 copies of this game? I don't know. So I'm wondering if there's something going on at night. So anyhow, on the Switch Online, I was playing Metroid Fusion, which I think Zach said he's a big fan of.
Yeah, I love that game. It's great.
Yeah, it's been on my backlog forever, partially because it's really expensive to buy. Yeah, I tried buying it on eBay a long time ago and gave up.
I wonder if I have a knockoff, what do you call it? Like a fake copy. Because I bought it not that long ago. It's probably like 10 years ago at this point, but.
And it was like under $50 for a loose card.
I think it was like $20, so
Okay.
It's probably fake.
Okay.
As long as it works, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like it. I've had to use the rewind feature quite heavily to get through it. It's a lot like Samus Returns in that energy packs are kind of meaningless. Because if you have 10 energy packs, an enemy will hit you for like 9 energy pack damage. So it's kind of absurd. I did a guest spot on the NintenDomain podcast. So you can put a link to that in the notes. We were talking about like East games in the new Nintendo Music app.
Oh, are there any East games in the Nintendo app? Probably not.
No, there are not. There is Donkey Kong Country, though. Mm-hmm. It has, I don't know, 5 soundtracks right now. Something. It's a little bit of an understatement. It's a pretty underwhelming selection so far. And what else? I posted an article about Game Boy Advance emulated collections, just because I was bored one Sunday. So this is where I just break out every multi-cart. I know multi-cart's probably not the right term, but like Game Boy Advance game that's just a bunch of emulated games, like the Pac-Man collection or
I think that'd be a multi-cart
Activision collection. Yeah, multi-cart's kind of implies bootleg. But I just did a quick review of all of them because I don't know, I was super bored one day. And it's almost Thanksgiving. So I wanted to do a feature on Black Friday deals, and I found almost nothing. All I could find that was retro gaming related. Obviously, I don't want to talk about TVs or power tools. I mean, I could talk about power tools if you wanted, but that's not what I want to cover. The only thing I found is that Kohl's was having a sale on most of the arcade one-up cabinets.
They definitely sell some interesting things there.
It's where I got my PS5.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very random.
Yeah, and I don't even know where the electronics department is in the Kohl's that's nearest to me. I just know I go in and I'm overwhelmed with the smell of perfume and have to leave.
Yeah, you get that headache. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is it. I'm like, I really miss when like Dollar General would be selling like crazy knockoff systems for, $10 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I got going on. What about you guys?
I'll go through my notes quickly. Let's see. I got, I have a listener question that I've been Discording Zach about. So I got my PC Engine games, which I'm looking at right now, that are out of storage, and I recently alphabetized my games that are on my shelf. I don't have as many displayed as I used to. But what do listeners think is the best way to display TurboGrafx games? Because I have TurboGrafx, I have TurboGrafx CD, plus I think they consider Super CD or Duo different, plus I have PC Engine. And so are those different systems? Do you do alphabetically within each system or all together? Hugh, I think you said just color code them, right?
Yeah, I sort all my games by color because it looks better.
Yeah.
It does make games harder to find unless you know what color the spine
I was going to
is.
say, yeah. I can't wrap my brain around that one. That would not work for me.
So right now they are alphabetized, except PC Engine is separated, which I think makes sense because I don't know how katakana works in the English alphabet. So, so listeners, please write in and let us know how you think I should organize them.
I'm looking at my Dreamcast shelf right here. It's, white, orange, black.
Nice. And you have all the colors memorized.
Well, if I want to find a game, it usually takes me a while because I'm like, I don't think it's consistent even by like game franchise, what color spine they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, I beat East 10. I liked it. It was fine. I think it's definitely in the bottom third of East games. It's bright and colorful and looks like the best Dreamcast game ever made. The systems are fun. The characters are fine. It takes place between East 2 and Salsetta, and they reference them both. And there's a DLC menu, which intrigues me. Like, are they going to have other adventures that you could download? I don't know.
Oh, I believe it's just costumes.
Probably, yeah. Got to get those upskirt dresses or whatever.
Whatever they do, they
cat
do
ears. Yeah.
They like doing the cat ears.
There are cat ears in
they're a big
this
fan
one.
of that.
Yeah. And whiskers too. And let's see, the cons are, switching between dual and single fighting mode. I'm just not smart enough for, so I almost exclusively fought in dual mode. And the music, it's still better than 90% of gaming, but it just wasn't as good as the other East games. And East 8 is still the best. But I did make it 2 notes here. Games like this need a just sum it up for me option. So, when you go up to a new town and there's like a group of people that need to tell you all this stuff, just like give me the 2-sentence gist of it and only tell me the names of the people I need to know. That would be a great option for modern games.
Yeah, I can't deal with long dialogue exchanges in games. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I click
I'm
right
playing
past.
I'm playing Echoes of Wisdom right now, and there's quite a bit of dialogue in that. But like, if you just kind of mash your way through, if it's important, it's highlighted in red. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
you almost get what you're asking for, but it's still a lot of work.
Yeah, that is a chatty game. Let's see, what else did I put here? Oh, chronologically, East 9 is the last game. And in it, he's only 24 years old. So I would love East 11 to be old man Adol. Like, give us Logan. Maybe he has to save his kids or something, or even his grandkids. I don't care. But, I'm kind of getting over playing someone who's 17. And I don't know. That's probably just me being an old man.
Yeah, the president of Falcom mentioned some time ago in an interview that they intentionally made him young in this game to try and attract younger players, to try and like bring new people into the series.
I don't know if that works though, because you don't know how old he is. It's not like it says play as a 17-year-old on the box, right?
Yeah, that would be some very odd marketing.
Yeah,
even for
actually,
Japan.
you'd probably get some old weirdos. Yeah.
I was just because like East 9, there is like the character like there's one of the guys you rescue is like considered the old man, as you recall.
Yeah.
He's like in the prison and if you look at his bio, it says he's 48,
Yeah.
Oof,
Yeah.
ancient.
but he looks like he's 900 at least.
Yeah. He can barely move. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous about what they would do with old Adol.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. And they could do an old Link too. I think it's time for that too. But that is all of my notes. Zach, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think I mentioned I've been playing Echoes of Wisdom, so that's pretty much the bulk of my gaming lately because I don't have any time to game.
You enjoying it?
I'm better than I was when I first started because it just seemed to be a lot of overworld exposition that I didn't care about. I like doing the dungeon stuff. So so far, pretty good. It's getting better. And then I had pre-ordered a physical copy of Faith, the Unholy Trinity, which I know nothing about, but I've heard great things, and I'm looking forward to starting that.
I don't know that one.
The only thing I know about it is I looked on the back and it looks like it has like Apple II style graphics for a Switch game.
Nice.
And it's supposed to be, I guess it's a horror game. I don't know. I don't know if it's an RPG. I don't know if it's like a first person dungeon crawler. I have no idea. I never go into games that blind. So
Cool. Well,
I'm
let
looking
us
forward
know
to
how
that,
you
but
think of it.
Yeah, I will.
Shall we do a podcast? I guess.
We shall.
Yeah.
I think, did I put this first one up in the news? I must have, right?
You must have, because I never add articles like that.
Well, there's a new demake for the Game Boy Color of Super Mario Brothers. And that's exactly what it is. And it looks kind of cool. I don't see a video of it. Just some really nice pictures here. And it looks better than Super Mario Land. And I think I see Yoshi in there somehow. But yeah,
It says it includes Yoshi.
Yeah. And so yeah, I think it has 16 total levels, well, worlds, and a few other extras that the original doesn't have, but it's also 2048 kilobytes, which puts it in the league of Pokemon Crystal or Wario Land 3. And the original Super Mario Brothers is 40K. So
Wow. I actually played it for a little bit. I grabbed the ROM and played it.
what did you think?
It looks really good for being Game Boy Color. I mean, I had it on a big screen. I don't have a Game Boy Color, and I was too lazy to try to get it under the pocket. But it looks pretty good. The music sounds basically the same. The only thing I noticed that was really different was the jump physics feel off.
Does it feel like Mario Land?
It does. It's more like he goes up and down at the same rate. There's not really like that little bit of floatiness at the top of the jump. And you can only shoot one fireball at a time, which is probably a sprite limitation. But it's better than the Super Mario Land bouncy ball thing. So
Yeah.
I did not get as far as seeing Yoshi. I'm not really sure where to find him. I just played through a couple of levels just to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. It's I see Yoshi in World 9-1. And then this other picture is from 13-1.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
So they've taken some artistic license with it, I guess.
Yeah. Zach, you did post the next one, though.
Yes, I did. The Nintendo Alarmo now plays Doom. And what took them so long? It's been at least a month, right?
Less than a month, I think.
So I wonder if Doom Man watches you in your sleep now.
Yes. So this is one I did not play. I did look at the article and watch some of the gameplay. It looks really hard to control. There's like a button on top of the Alarmo apparently that you have to use to do everything.
Wow. Let's see.
Well, it looks like you can turn the alarm. Oh, is a knob obviously for like the time or volume or something.
Yeah. And
you use that to steer. I mean, it's not the worst version of Doom.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's not the worst controls we've seen on a Doom project.
Well, if you have Polymega and you update to the latest firmware, you could start buying the Polymega Collection, which is some DVDs that come with games on them. It kind of seems like an Evercade type thing, right?
A little bit, yeah.
It does, yeah.
It does. I think this is a good idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea, but I did look at the website and I questioned the validity of the statement that it's playable exclusively on the Polymega. It's just got to be ROMs on a disc, right? So unless it's got some kind of DRM that only the Polymega can read, seems like a stretch to me.
Yeah, that is a good question. That would be fun to get one of these and just put it in like a Windows laptop and see if you could just use RetroArch.
Just see what's on it. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
All right, why don't you get on that?
I just might. We all know I'm not going to. But what I did do is buy all the Sega games that I did not have on Steam yet. And that's not a lie. I actually did do that because I'm a psycho. Because Sega just announced that, December 20th? On December 6th, they are delisting many Sega classic games. And there is a list on this Sega.com website, and they also put up a FAQ just because everyone was asking so many questions. What do you guys think this means? Sega 50?
No. First of all, I mean, it's frustrating, but I have a PlayStation 2 disc that has every one of these games on it, I think.
I have a Switch cart that has almost all of these on there.
Yeah. I mean, just whenever people sell a collection with a whole bunch of games, just buy them.
Yeah, but this is also standalone games like Crazy Taxi, Crackdown, Comic Zone, stuff like that, where, yeah, they're on the Sega Classics that I just mentioned I own and you probably own, but they are coming out with Jet Set Radio, a modern one. So, yeah, really strange. But physical is king.
It probably means, they're going to put out a new collection of some kind and, whatever goes along with that.
Or another subscription. Just what we all need. Yeah.
I mean, right here, if I go to the orange section of my Dreamcast shelf, I have Crazy Taxi, so I'm covered there.
You found that pretty quick.
That's the game I play the most on my Dreamcast. That one I know. Don't ask me where Coaster Works is. That'll take me a while to find.
Well, speaking of collections, Digital Eclipse released Tetris Forever, and it has 2 DOS games. One from Academy Soft and the other one from Spectrum Holobyte. And it's good to point those out because the Academy Soft one was actually programmed by Alexei, who did the original Tetris. And then the other one I mentioned from Spectrum Holobyte, that's a hard word to say, was the first commercial release of Tetris. Do any of you guys have this collection?
No. But I'm interested in it. Because I mean, it doesn't look like it has the NES or the Tetris version, but or the Game Boy version. But I have those, so I don't need them. But I really like what Digital Eclipse has been doing lately in terms of it's like a documentary game, and you can play the different versions of Tetris in this case.
Apparently, it clears up a lot of the sensationalism that the Tetris movie did, which I liked. I actually appreciated that they sensationalized it. I loved that movie. But the funny thing is that the actual story is as crazy as the movie was, just in a different way. So Still a good story in there. I'm waiting for the physical on this one, I think, unless there's like some Steam sale. I hope there's a physical of this. I can't see there not being.
Yeah, I don't know. If it doesn't have the, I don't know. Call me a snob, I guess. But I just want the NES version. The Game Boy version is on the Switch Online, so you can play that if you like that one. That's a good version too. But I mean, I played like the DOS version back in the day, and yeah, it's fine. I mean, Tetris is basically Tetris.
Unless it's Hatris.
Unless it's Hatris. But this collection doesn't have Hatris, which I'm very disappointed about.
It's very disappointing. Have either of you played Tetris? What was the last one? Not Tetris Forever. That's what we're talking about. Tetris Effect. Have either of you played that one? It's kind of the most recent modern Tetris, I want to say. I think you guys like it. It's a very
I know the
good
soundtrack to it. I've heard the soundtrack, but I haven't actually played
impressive soundtrack, right?
Yeah, very good soundtrack. And a sleeper one is the CDI version of Tetris. Has a really great soundtrack.
Yeah, that's definitely a cozy game.
For all you CDI fans out there.
Zach, I think this last one was yours too, right?
Yeah, except you skipped one
Did I?
29 years later, a new Donkey Kong Country 2 cheat code has been discovered.
I did. I clicked right past it.
Yep. But it's kind of interesting. I looked at the article. I wish they had a little more info on how they found it. I don't know if somebody was just goofing around, because it's like up A, down B, left X,
They
right
were,
Y, or something like that.
They had decompiled the game.
Okay. I couldn't find that information.
I think this is going to end up. I believe I made this a banned topic on the podcast, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. Was like some time ago there was an article about like, hey, did you know you can continue in Super Mario Brothers if you press A and start?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's in the manual. Like, and it's not the manual. It was like the Nintendo. It was a hint book that Nintendo sold.
Right.
Right. It was just everybody knew it. If I grabbed a copy of EGM from 1989, it's probably printed in there. So I actually saw this article and I'm like, okay, well, it's neat they found it. But what if I went back and just read every copy of EGM in like 1995? Would I find this code in there?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it didn't get copied to GameFAQs. You know?
Yeah. And then the one that I skipped too, I think, was Zach's, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the SNK and Tanita. It's a long article title, which is essentially the body of the article as well. They're releasing a King of Fighters branded body composition analyzer, which I thought was kind of interesting, except that I don't really believe that those body composition analyzers really work anyway.
What is a body composition analyzer?
So like you stand on a scale with bare feet, and maybe you also, and I think this one has it, where you grab some metal plates with your hands and it measures like the resistance through different parts of your body and tells you how fat you are.
Oh, okay. So like doesn't a mirror accomplish the same thing?
Yes.
Can we all agree that pedometer is the worst word ever? It's pretty bad.
It's not great.
Yeah. It sounds like something else for sure.
Yeah. I can't wait for this episode to get flagged.
I think pedometer you're allowed to say. I don't think that's a problem.
It's what the pedometer is measuring, though. That's the problem.
That could be a problem, yeah. I've never owned one.
That's our news for the episode. We do have a light topic this week that we mentioned last episode of console ports that are better than the arcade version. And right away, Zach made a great comment that this should probably exclude Neo Geo because they're supposed to be the same, which I agree with.
Yeah, and I would exclude anything after a certain... I can't remember if I put it on here, but like after a certain era, it kind of doesn't make sense to...
Like PS2 kind of, right?
Versions. Yeah, like going back to Crazy Taxi. All right, make some crazy money. I don't know if there's any difference between the Dreamcast Crazy Taxi and the arcade.
There is. There's extra modes in it that actually make it better.
Oh, okay.
The
challenges.
Dreamcast?
Yeah. But since my name is up there first, I guess I'll go first. And I have in my notes here that I agree with all of Hugues. I just wanted to add stuff that you didn't already. So sorry if there's a few that are already in there, but definitely Asteroids for 2600 is better than the original Asteroids. I'm not sure about Asteroid Deluxe because that's such a pretty cabinet. What else? Most Nintendo Versus games, most notably Super Mario Brothers, right? Like that's just not a fun game compared to the Nintendo port. Contra? Do you guys agree on that? Contra for the arcade is just weird.
100%. Yeah. I don't like the Tate mode for that. It doesn't make any sense. And it seems like, it seems kind of washed out.
Yeah. The way they flip
palette
is weird too. Just their body mechanic when they flip and show up is just strange.
Yep.
I am now not sure I ever played Contra in the arcade.
It's strange. It kind of has the Versus effect where the color schema is just different. Like it's a different PPU chip, which I have no idea if that's true or not. That's just how it looks to me. A game I mentioned probably more than any other gaming podcast host, Legendary Wings. The arcade port is in the side-scrolling area. I don't think you could fly. I think you're just hopping around. It's something like that. I haven't played the arcade port in a while, but it's not as good.
No, I totally forgot about that. That's a great example. I love that game on the NES.
Oh, I love it so much. I think that is the first game I beat. I'm pretty sure. I remember a trip.
It's good to... So I was saying it's good because once you're fully powered up, you can pretty much hang on to it and kind of get
if you know what you're doing, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I just remember a trip to Lake Charlevoix in northern Michigan when I was really young, and my cousin brought his NES, and we just powered through that after when all the adults went out to have fun, and we were young and just staying in the condo. Does Donkey Kong 94 count or no?
No.
And then I ended with, I have two more examples in here. Tetris, I can't imagine any scenario when I'm not in my house sitting on a couch where I'm like, you know what? I want to stand around all these people and just play Tetris in the arcade. It just seems like a downer.
Yeah. And it doesn't look very good either. I mean, it looks worse than the NES version, I think.
Yeah. I actually had someone tried to sell me a working Tetris cabinet for $100 and I turned it down. It already bored me just looking at it. I feel the same way about Arkanoid as well. I don't want to play that in an arcade. And then do ports that came out after the console port count? My example is Mario Kart GP DX. The Mario Kart. It's like a Wii. I forget if it's Wii or GameCube kind of Mario Kart that is in the arcade only. Does that count?
I would say it counts because I have a similar situation for one of mine.
Yeah. My point is it's not as good as any 3D Mario Kart. Sorry, any 3D Mario Kart. All right, who wants to go next?
Hugues, you can go if you want.
Yeah, I will go. What did we talk about? So I bring this up. I feel like we've talked about this on the show, but maybe I've just talked about all these games individually over the years. So I have a list of ones that I think I mentioned. I'm positive I mentioned on the show before, but maybe I didn't. And then I have a few others here. Paperboy on the NES. I just think that's way more fun than the arcade version.
Yeah.
You can control it.
Better than Master System?
Oh, yeah. The Master System version doesn't control as well.
It looks better, but yeah, it doesn't control as well. Yeah.
That's really it, is that the NES version, you can actually, it doesn't feel like you're trying to ride a bike and throw a newspaper at the same time. It feels like you're just playing a video game.
Yeah.
Bionic Commando on the NES, which is kind of a different game than the arcade. But I always like that one better. Yeah. I talk about my deep appreciation of Food Fight on the 7800 a lot. That's another one, just because it's easier. And I'm probably going to end up getting that like Atari 7800 clone, mostly to play arcade ports, because in general, 7800 arcade ports are all a lot of fun. Wrote down Dragon's Lair on the Wii has a super easy mode that is either better or worse depending on your definition. So like the Dragon's Lair on Wii will actually flash the button you're supposed to hit on the screen.
I think that one was ported to most modern consoles now. Like I have that one on PS4 and it does the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just want to see the game, you know, I mean, you could just like rip the Laserdisc and watch it, I guess. But and then this will get me, I'm positive someone will send me hate mail for this, and I encourage it. The NES version of Donkey Kong is better than the arcade because it doesn't have the Pie Factory level.
You're going to get an email from Pie Factory.
I can't. I mean, their show is great and everything, but that Pie Factory stage is not fun.
I don't like the elevator stage. I like Pie Factory stage better than the elevator stage.
Interesting. So we have to come up with some version of Donkey Kong that just has the levels you like on it.
Yeah.
I like the 2600 version of Pac-Man Jr. just because it's, again, super easy and you can kind of play it forever. Mm-hmm. It's almost impossible, I think, to get caught in that game. The Tengen ports of Miss Pac-Man have tons of different mazes and extra modes. So I don't know if you've ever played any of the Tengen Miss Pac-Man ports. Not the Lynx one that I just showed on the camera. This is a Tengen Miss Pac-Man port, but it's one that does not have the extra mazes. It's just the straight up game.
Doesn't that Lynx one actually like scroll a little bit? Like they don't fit the whole thing on the screen? I could be wrong.
The whole thing's on there.
Okay.
No, you're thinking of the game, like there's the article I just posted. The Game Boy Advance version of Miss Pac-Man scrolls. You can either do full screen or scrolling, but full screen, you can barely tell what's going on. Mm-hmm. But then scrolling, you just die constantly because it's like, oh, there's a ghost there.
Yeah.
I do not, this is not what I like, but I noticed like Rygar is like Bionic Commando. I do not like the game Rygar on the NES at all. It freaks me out, man. It's like
when we first started this podcast, we talked about how Rygar made us feel strange a lot.
Yeah.
I like Rygar, but that was actually one of my games here. Is like the arcade version of it is no fun. I never spent much time on it, but just kind of seems like an endless side scrolling platformer, and I really like the NES port of it, but I know you guys are allergic to it.
No, I like it. I like that game a lot. It just makes me feel strange. It's something about the palette and the sounds they use. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like if you asked David Lynch to port arcade game to NES. That's what it's like. I do not like it. And then last I put Strider. I do not like the arcade version of Strider at all.
Same, yeah.
Yep. It's beautiful.
It looks okay, but like the NES version is just a lot of fun.
Now, did you play the PS3 port of it? It's like a modernized... It's very good. It's actually kind of a mix between the two, but with very, very modern 2D graphics. It's actually pretty enjoyable.
Well, I never owned a PS3, so I guess I would have to see if it's... yeah, you can get it on PS4 and other stuff. Okay.
All right, how about Zach's?
I think you guys covered most of mine, but I think nobody talked Ninja Gaiden yet. Mm-hmm. I think that's maybe the best example of the ones that I have. The arcade version is an unplayable slog. It just feels like you're hitting buttons and it responds like a half a second later. It's really not fun at all.
I forget, is Shinobi the same way, or is Shinobi's home console ports worse? I can't remember which is which. I always get them confused.
They're really close.
Yeah. They're both pretty difficult to me.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Yeah, but the NES Ninja Gaiden games are some of the best ones there are, I think, for that system. We talked about Contra, Bandit Commando, Rygar. My example of it was actually a home console game first is Choplifter.
Oh yeah.
So that it was on the Apple II, and then later ported to the arcade, and it's full color graphics and all these other added things, but it's not as much fun. It's very clearly a quarter muncher.
Yeah, I would definitely put the arcade port at last. For me, it'd probably be Apple II and then probably Master System after that. What a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Master System version is, I think, my favorite of that one, too.
While we were talking, have you guys thought of any others that aren't written down? No?
Yeah, I mean, because, again, better is sort of... boy, it's difficult to say. It's like... what is the game with the fight? Mortal Kombat 2. That's it. We just talked about this game. Like, the Super Nintendo version has a mode that is a lot of fun if you have people over. It has this, like, 4-player tandem, like, tag team mode.
Oh, yeah.
That's really fun in a group. Like, I get that the arcade version is technically better in every way, but that one feature makes the Super Nintendo version really, really great.
I'm just looking up one. I guess I'm looking up Bomberman because I don't ever remember playing Bomberman in the arcade. I know there's Neo Bomberman, but we said Neo Geo doesn't count. I could see that being really good in the arcade or a total dud. I know at least one listener that could probably write in and let us know. Shall we move on to Game Club?
Yeah.
Well, I've been going first this whole time, so Hugh, why don't you do yours first?
All right, I did. Did I do Kid Icarus? Yes, I did. So I was playing the we'll call it nerfed version on Switch, where you start off with you actually start at the last dungeon with all the equipment, but of course it carries over to new game. So even with everything maxed out, this is still a pretty tough game because of all the falling.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? Isn't that the Icarus myth, right? It's like he flew too close to the sun or something and his wings melted. Was that it?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Whoever wrote that didn't understand how atmospheric temperature works. But anyhow, regardless, what I like that is kind of funny is all the weird little shops. Like, this is a world, like, infested with monsters, but people still, like, can set up shops. And including in the dungeons themselves. Like, I don't know who's shopping at a dungeon shop other than Kid Icarus himself.
Yeah.
Depends on the deal you get.
Not a lot of games where, like, you're in a dungeon and there's just some guy running a shop out of the dungeon.
Literally the only one I could think of is Newtopia.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, the first Phantasy Star, there's like a cake shop in the basement of a dungeon.
That's it's right. Really... I forgot about that. Yeah.
But unlike Rygar, this is good weird. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not unsettling. It's weird that all this stuff exists, but it's good. The statue arrow guys, they probably have a name. You hit them with the hammer, and then they turn into like a real boy, and they help fight the boss with you. They're useless. Have you ever got them to actually damage the boss?
I've never tried. No.
Okay. So yeah, I originally bought this back there. I bought this after Metroid. So even though I liked it, it felt like a step backwards. I mean, they're probably like 80% the same code. Mm-hmm. Also, are those Metroids in the late stages?
They're called something like that. They're called like... Oh.
Are they Mocktroids?
Let's see. We need to know this.
Yeah, they're the little Metroid guys that hop up and attack you.
Let's see.
Oh, did you open up the manual?
No.
There you go.
It's going to be in the manual. Nintendo.co.jp is the first result for Kid Icarus manual on the internet. All right. Pit, Sacred Treasures, credit card. I forgot about the credit card. God of Poverty.
They're called Komitos. I thought they had a more Metroid type name.
Mysterious floating creature. Nobody knows where it came from. One theory has it that it came from a planet other than the Earth. It's a nasty jellyfish monster. That is the description. And then, of course, there's the eggplant guy. Literally called Eggplant Wizard. Who is
He's
maybe
terrible.
the most hated enemy in the game ever.
Yeah.
He's awful.
Oh, there's an FAQ at the end here, too. Why can't I use my weapons? Sometimes you can't use them because you haven't got enough strength.
Or you have an eggplant for a head.
Or an eggplant for a head. But yeah, I mean, overall, I like the game. It's, I definitely have to play it with some help nowadays. But back, I keep saying back in the day, I got to ban myself from using that phrase. In the past, I had no issue getting through the game, but now it's a little bit challenging for me. Carpal tunnel and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Shall I do my notes here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely think this is a great choice. I love this game. I swore we did this, but we did not. I can't believe it took us how many years? Many years? 6? Something like that.
Many, yes.
And I actually never owned this, but one of my best friends as a kid did, so we played it a lot at his house. And when I got back into retro collecting, this was one of the the first games that I bought, in like a NES collection on eBay that was dirt cheap. And I beat it almost immediately, and I posted a picture on Facebook, and every summer it comes up in my reminders, and it makes me happy. Like here's what happened to you, 12 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
It's definitely a fun speed run to watch. I actually watch these streams in the background a lot when I'm working. Not actually actually like live speed runs of people doing it.
How do you speed run it? Isn't it like a controlled scrolling speed?
There's
not the dungeons.
Not the dungeons, and also there's skips to do.
Okay. I didn't get that far in it.
And falling down and the eggplant head are definitely the worst parts of the game. Zach, what did you think?
I did actually play this one. Backing up to Kid Icarus for 1 second, I was never any good at it. The most recent thing I did with that was when the Nintendo World Championship cart came out for the Switch. Like that's part of that speedrunning thing, and I am even worse at it under pressure.
I believe.
But with Balloon Kid, I played it for a little bit for the first time ever. I didn't even know it was a thing. I think it's a great sequel idea, well implemented. It feels a little bit different than Balloon Fight, if I recall correctly. Like the physics works a little bit differently here. But I liked it. I would like to spend more time with it. Yeah, I thought it was cool. You could, if your balloons pop, you can run around, but I couldn't figure out how to get balloons back, so I would always die.
Oh yeah, it's funny in Balloon Kid. I couldn't figure out at first why you would ever want to release your balloons until you get to the first boss and you can't fight him with your balloons. So you actually keep pushing down over and over again, and it like pumps up a balloon.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Now I definitely want to go back and play it more.
But yeah, so that'll lead me into my game pick was Balloon Kid on Game Boy, and it's called. Sorry,
I thought you were already talking about it.
Oh no, that was still Kid Icarus, but hey, we skipped ahead. It's good. There was also Balloon Fight for Game Boy Color that was only in Japan, but it's the same game as Balloon Kid. And I didn't realize this existed until recently. Balloon Fight was like one of the first games I loved. I think it's top 3 black box games. Probably top 5 for me NES games total, which is kind of crazy because it's such a simple game. Let's see. What else do I have in here? This game was actually really fun to play. I enjoyed it. I played it quite a bit This wasn't originally released in Japan, which seems strange that this was a US only release, but then it was ported to Hello Kitty World. So I still haven't played that yet. And I already mentioned the Game Boy Color port, which is really great. That's the one I ended up playing the most. It just seems, I don't know, less washed out. And it's not just the colors. Like, it seems like they cleaned it up quite a bit. No matter what, I can't get past level 5. It just doesn't seem possible, even though I saw someone do it on YouTube. And Zach, like you said, I had no idea why you would want to release a balloon, but there's no way to really beat some of the bosses without doing that. And then starting in either, I forget if it was level 4 or 5, you have to release your balloon to fit through some tunnels. And then on the other end, since it's auto-scrolling, you have to pump up a balloon fast enough to get past it. And
that's an interesting mechanic. I like that.
Yeah, I really like what they did with this game. I'm really impressed with this one. Balloon Trip. If you remember in the original Balloon Fight, there was the Balloon Trip mode. That's an auto-scrolling, and you're trying not to hit the sparks in the air, and you're trying to pop all the balloons. This one made me feel like I was bad at gaming because of the screen real estate. There's just not enough there, and you really kind of float different than you did on the NES port. But this made me, on the Pocket, load up Balloon Fight for NES, and I did do Iwata's challenge. So I hope all of our listeners do it as well, which is Balloon Trip mode, and you don't miss any of the first 20 balloons, and your balloons turn from blue or green? I forget. Well, anyway, they turn into red, and there's a little pause and a little sound that happens when you do it. So it's a nice little Easter egg in there. And yeah, so I definitely recommend the Game Boy Color port for this. It's really cool. Hugh, did you have anything on this one?
I only watched a speed run. This was one where I don't have any copies of this game on anything, which I was a little surprised to find. I didn't even have a questionable bootleg copy. So when I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, I can see, like, okay, I thought this is why I really like the Game Boy, like the original Game Boy so much, because it had all these kind of like fun little abridged versions of bigger NES games. Like Metroid 2 or Super Mario Land, you know, like it's not
all the Mega Man.
All the Mega Man. Yeah.
Those are hard games.
Yeah, here's just like a shorter, easier kind of version of the game with some extra, different content. I won't say extra content, but different. And this was kind of a fun watch. It's only, 20 minutes long? 28 minutes and 16 seconds. So I just, had this on over lunch in the background one day and thought, yeah, it's kind of a fun game. I don't know that I'd be any good at it. The late stages where there's like a lot of twirling spiky stuff, that looks pretty hard.
Like I said, even level 5 is near impossible.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a pretty good game.
Yeah. This was a nice random choice. What do you want to play next?
I'm going to pick a very similar game to my last one. I'm going to go Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Another game we have also never covered.
Good choice.
Yeah, and the Switch Online also has what I'll call a nerfed version, where I think you start with max stats. So I would highly recommend playing that version.
Well, I'm going to do Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure, obviously on the TurboGrafx 16.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's on CD also, right? Is that CD and chip?
Yeah. The CD obviously has better music, but the chip has more animation frames, which is really strange. But
that is odd.
Zach, you're here so I don't have to butcher all of our links and stuff. You can tell people how to get a hold of us.
Now I'm going to butcher it because I've never actually, I just write it down. Well, there's links in the show notes. So there's a link tree there, and that'll take you pretty much anywhere you want to go. We also have the Discord server, which has been pretty active lately. It's been a lot of fun. We got a lot of listeners chiming in, and just, I don't know, we just chat on the Discord. So join us there. It's a lot of fun. And then we are also on Threads and Facebook. I think we actually just quit Twitter and we are going to be more active on Blue Sky. We got Instagram, and I handle all that. So if you're hitting us up there, that's me who's dealing with you.
Yeah, I'm mostly in Facebook and Discord. I mean, Zach is obviously there too, but I actually have access to that stuff. Cool.
I have a LinkedIn account that I'm going to delete the second I decide to retire.
Nice.
But most importantly, I think email at retrogameclub.net. That is email at retrogameclub.net. And yeah, we do have some emails this episode. I feel like I want you guys to read these.
Okay. I'll just go real quick. So JW wrote in to ask if he was writing in too late for the Ask Us Anything episode, and they were not. So I think we're recording that over Thanksgiving week, probably, because I don't travel for Thanksgiving and you're in Australia.
Yeah. I don't even know if I could buy a turkey here.
Oh, that's a good point, because turkey is probably that they're probably not bred in Australia, right? That would be probably destroy the environment if you brought a live turkey there, wouldn't
exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Are they an invasive species?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you have to like barbecue a kiwi or something, maybe. That's not very good. Are kiwi endangered? I can't imagine they are.
It's just a fruit.
Oh,
or a person.
No, the bird, the little wingless bird.
Oh.
Oh, those are New Zealand. Those are Australia.
Those are New Zealand, yeah.
I'm wrong. I was off. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, JW, no, it's there's still time. But they're just writing in to say they're very excited to see, when this podcast came out, and just to say thanks for all the episodes. And I put their questions. I'm just acknowledging your email because your questions are in the Ask Us Anything episode that we will get to later. A week from today, probably. Majors writes in to talk about the video graphic peak in games. Sorry, I just forgot how to read. All right, you both have conversations about graphical improvement in games are getting smaller. I would counter argue that with high resolutions and HDR, you could be getting some extra fidelity in games. And on a side note, graphics peaked with the TurboGrafx.
Obviously.
Poshmark. Yeah, I forgot about talking about Poshmark. I was just on there looking for an XFL jersey. That's not a joke. Yeah, it's just sort of funny how he mentions that there's a lot of other, in quotes, undiscovered sites selling games and other merchandise right now. So I wish you would have shared a couple others that I missed. I know about like Yahoo auctions, and I heard there's a thing called Facebook Marketplace, but I've never been on it. But I have to, I don't know, to me it's like if Foot Locker set up a website. I don't know, is Foot Locker still in business?
I think so.
If Foot Locker set up a website and you start browsing and suddenly there were NES games. That's the fascinating thing about Poshmark to me.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like Kohl's.
Like Kohl's, yes. Kohl's is, I could swear like Kohl's had a video game section in the early 90s, like a full-blown video game section.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Retro Time NES Hub Bluetooth for the NES. It was fun to read about how folks with US NES consoles can finally use the bottom port for something after almost 40 years. But I wonder if collectors will be mad that NES owners have to break the tabs on the bottom to expose it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Better home ports. Gauntlet 4 on the Genesis. That is actually a good pick.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Game Club games. Kid Icarus, he always thought was the poor man's Metroid. He's attempted to try it from time to time, but the instant death has turned him off. And Balloon Kid, he thought it was maybe a little bit too slow. He enjoys Balloon Fight on the NES, but the forced scrolling lost some of its magic. He looks forward to Rob's review and why he picked this title.
It's just because I didn't know it existed. I don't even know if I said that before. And I love Balloon Fight,
Yeah.
so I was excited to see the sequel that I did not know about.
All right. Zach, do you want to talk about social media feedback?
Sure. We had the question, what are some home console ports that are better than the arcade originals, which was our topic. So we got quite a few responses there. Gamatroid, he suggests Double Dragon on the NES, which I feel like is a huge oversight on my part. That's seems like an obvious choice. He says it was almost inspired by the arcade than an actual port, but it wasn't as brutally difficult either. It adds an experience to what is it? Oh wait, it adds an experience and level up system. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Like you get a back punch and stuff like that, right? There's additional stages and made the music more pronounced and better in his opinion. He says he still prefers the arcade graphics, but the NES port wins in every other area. I think I agree with that.
I agree too.
Our friend Raftronaut, responsible for the opening music here, as well as other things. He suggests Smash TV. I actually called him out on this one on the Discord. Because I didn't agree at first, but when he explained it, I think I have come around on his thinking. He says it's less brutal in the home ports, but he appreciates the creativity of the NES port because you have 8x8 sprites and they're clear and legible for what they're supposed to be. And that's very hard to do. So if you don't know, he is also a NES homebrew guy, so he would know about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Just to know what his NES homebrew has elements that are reminiscent of Smash TV.
Yeah. So he finds that the object handling is highly impressive. Similarly, for Narc, it looks better to him on the home ports, and the arcade version is just too garish and less cartoony. He finds the 8-bit reduction to be goofy and more fun. And I think in the NES version, I think like when you're killing the bad guys, it's pretty like crazy, explosively violent for the NES, right? If I recall correctly. Or am I thinking of something else? I don't know if either one of you guys know.
Yeah, it's violent as an NES game.
Yeah.
So is the intro of Double Dragon, for that matter.
Yes, that's true. Good point. And then Raftronaut also says Gradius is his favorite NES cart. He fell in love with that. He fell in love with that game on the Play Choice 10, so all his affection for the game comes from that port. We also got an answer from Retro Game Brews from the Gamers Week podcast. He says Ninja Gaiden, which is what we talked about, as well as Kung Fu Master. Second was Kung Fu Master. Is that the full name? Kung Fu Master?
No, Kung Fu is the NES version of Kung Fu Master.
Oh, I get it.
That confused me at first too, until we did that as a game club game.
You would think I would have remembered that. But he says it's somehow more frustrating on the NES version, but that sounds like it's worse than the arcade port then. So I'm calling him out on that one. Starsky, also on the Discord, says Burger Time, Punch Out on the NES, and San Francisco Rush and Cruisin' USA on the N64.
Oh, good examples, yeah.
Punch Out especially.
Yeah, Punch Outs are almost. it's not a completely different game, but it's very, very different from the arcade version.
It's like the Strider effect.
Isn't it like a wireframe kind of model in the arcade? Is your guy that you're supposed to look through? Yeah,
that's one of the worst arcade cabinets to keep working because of the two monitors.
Oh
yeah. I'm sure people are like not gentle with the controls either.
Yeah, and that the big button, whatever it is, I forget, the knockout button or whatever, those are hard to come by. Those are expensive and they break easy.
We also got a little bit of feedback on Kid Icarus. Donnie G Retro, also from Gamers Week. He says he loved Kid Icarus and still loves it. It's one of his favorite platformers that he didn't end up completing until he was an adult. I think that probably goes for a lot of people who played it back in the day. And Eric R writes in to say that he loves the game. He got it when it was, he got it with his first NES back in 1987, and he still has it. Nice. Wonder if that's worth anything. The music was the best at its time, and still 40 years later, levels 3 and 4 with the Eggplant Wizard gives him anxiety. Then we have our next question, which Rob mentioned up top. What's the best way to organize TurboGrafx 16 TurboGrafx CD, and PC Engine games. Alphabetically, system type color-coded like Hugues, or do you have some other method?
Yeah, and if you have your own collection, please send us some pictures of how you have them organized. But yeah, that's email@retrogameclub.net or all of the socials that Zach listed. Easiest just to go in the show notes and go to the link tree, probably.
Yeah, that's the idea anyway.
And what are our Game Club games again? Bonk 3 and Zelda 2. And I think that covers it, right?
Yeah, I think so. So thanks for listening.